I'm Nate. I've been playing RuneScape for over a decade, and I was one of the first people to max in old school RuneScape. Since then, I've made over a dozen high-level accounts and achieved every 99 multiple times, and this is my guide. So welcome to my 1 to 99 magic guide. This is going to be a bit different format than my previous 1 to 99 guides. Instead of going over how to do each method, I'm just going to present all of the methods that are possible pretty much. Their XP rates, and basically the ideal route from 1 to 99 depending on what you want to prioritize. Down in the description though, I will link to guides on how to do each method, so that information is definitely there for you if you need it. But for this video here, this is simply basically the raw data on the XP rates and what is the most optimal and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to have 4 different sections, the AFK route, fast routes, profitable route, and the efficient route. Throughout this guide, I'm going to be referencing basically an AFK score for various methods. So here is the AFK scale that I've come up with. So it goes from 0 to 10. So at level 0, or score of 0, you have less than 1 second of AFK time. So this is like 3 tick 4 granite. You never get to AFK even for 1 second. Then at 10, you have 120 plus seconds of AFK time regularly. I'm going to provide GP per XP rates for pretty much every method, but they can change with prices. So I'll leave down in the description a link to a sheet that should auto-update the GP per XP for each of these methods. So make sure to check that out to get accurate GP per XP rates as prices change. To start off, we're going to go over 1 to 99 magic, the AFK route. For this sample plan that I came up with, the reasoning for my choices here are a lot of these are quite AFK. But at the same time, they either lose you very little money or you actually profit while still being quite fast XP for their level. The options that you have in the early game for AFK magic is splashing combat spells, just using combat spells without trying to splash them, making teletabs, AFK enchanting jewelry, and AFK enchanting bolts. Each of them have their pros and cons. Splashing combat spells is extremely AFK, but it is also extremely slow. Making teletabs is pretty good XP while also being pretty AFK, and you also make a fair bit of money from it. So it's pretty good in all areas. AFK enchanting jewelry, this can also be profitable. It is also pretty AFK, but typically the XP per hour is slower than making teletabs. AFK enchanting bolts, this can be faster XP than all of the previous stuff, but it is less AFK and it is far more expensive. Here is the specifics while leveling up for each of the different methods. You can see the approximate amount that you need, the XP per hour, the GP per XP, and about how long it will take. And here is a table with basically all of the details for every method that is early game and AFK. So you can choose which method is best for you if you don't want to follow exactly the route that I've laid out. The options available for the mid game for AFK magic are listed here. So a lot of these are the same as for early game, but they're just higher tiers. And we have the addition of bursting. Bursting is really only AFK if you have 2 alts and you're doing it at the MM2 caves. So it has Desert Treasure as a requirement, MM2 as a requirement, and 2 alts. Charging orbs is also a new thing, although it is super slow XP. I wouldn't really recommend it. It is AFK though, and you do make money. Here are the specifics for each of the different methods listed in the route that I made. We have the approximate amount that you're going to have to do, the XP per hour, the GP per XP, and about how long it's going to take. Here is the table for mid-game AFK magic methods. I put in basically everything that I could think of here, so you should have essentially every method here that is viable. You can go ahead and choose which option is best for you if you don't want to follow my specific recommendation. So the methods that we have for the late game AFK magic, once again, we do have some stuff on here that is similar. The normal combat spells, splashing combat spells, the AFK enchanting bolts, AFK enchanting jewelry, making tabs. The additions here are barraging. This once again requires 2 alts, Desert Treasure, and Monkey Madness 2 to be completed. If you have all of those requirements, it is the best option here, but most people I assume will not have 2 alt accounts with Monkey Madness 2 started. So we also have string jewelry, which is the option I chose as the method to use at this point. It's very AFK, it's very fast XP, and you don't lose a lot of money. There's also AFK plank making. This is also pretty good XP. and you can profit from it, and it is fairly AFK. Here are the specific details for finishing off the late game with string jewelry. Some honorable mentions here are MM2 barraging. This is the best method available if you have the requirements for it. Then there's also calibre tabs, which is pretty fast XP. You profit, and it is fairly AFKable. Max gear fire surge at the ammonite crabs. This is actually pretty fast XP and very AFK. You do lose some money. It's not super expensive, but it does require max gear. So that is harmonized orb, the tome of fire, ancestral, occult, all of that stuff. Max gear. It can be pretty fast XP and very AFK. Here is a table of all of the late game AFK methods. It has the XP per hour, the AFK rating, and the GP per XP. So you can go ahead and use this table to choose a method if you don't want to specifically follow the route that I laid out. Next up, we have 1 to 99 magic the fast way. This is the fastest way available. It assumes you don't care about efficiency or money or AFK or anything like that. You simply want to get 99 magic as fast as possible. There are other methods that are close to the same XP rates as the ones listed here that are more AFK that I would personally choose over these options most of the time. But this is simply if you want extremely fast magic XP. For the early game, the options you have are quests, enchanting bolts, superheating, and low alch. Here are the specific details for each of the methods and their level ranges that I have recommended. You can see the approximate amount that you're going to have to cast, the XP per hour, and the GP per XP, and about how long it's going to take for that level range. Here's a table with all of the methods that are available for the early game fast magic. So you can look at this table and choose which method you want to use if you don't want to exactly follow what I recommended. Here are the mid-game fast magic methods available. So you have higher tiers of enchanting bolts. You have, once again, superheating is here. It's the same as in the early game. It's just kind of on the border, so I put it here in the mid-game as well. You have manually enchanting jewelry, high alch plus curses, bake pie, humidify, and bursting and barraging. Here are the specifics for those methods. For those level ranges, you have the approximate amount that you're going to have to cast, the XP per hour, GP per XP, and about how long it will take. And here is a table of basically all of the methods for the mid-game fast XP. You can go ahead and look at this table and choose what is best for you if you don't want to follow exactly what I've recommended here. Here we have basically all of the late game fast magic methods that weren't already mentioned. So we have enchanting bolts, but the higher tiers like onyx, we have bursting and barraging, manually enchanting dragon plus jewelry, tan leather, string jewelry, manual plank make, recharge dragonstone inventory, and recharge dragonstone single. So just to clarify on those last two, recharge dragonstone envy is where you cast it with a full inventory of dragonstone jewelry. You bank, you put all of those charged ones in the bank, and you withdraw another full inventory of uncharged. Whereas single is you withdraw a full inventory of uncharged things, then you sit and drop all of them. You pick up one, you cast the spell, you pick up another, cast the spell, and repeat that. Here are the specifics for the late game and the spell that I recommended. Then along with that, we have the honorable mentions. So MM2 barraging is nearly as fast as enchanting onyx bolts. And one of the big upsides about MM2 barraging is it is super AFK as long as you have 2 alt accounts that can help you out there. And it is the method that I go with since I do have those 2 alt accounts. It's very nice. You also have Slayer barraging, so you can get quite a bit of XP during tasks while doing Slayer. Recharging Dragonstones if you have the hard Fremi Diary done. This can be very good XP per hour, and you can actually profit a lot of money doing this method. And if you want to sacrifice the GP, you can actually get extremely good rates, even better than barraging if you are very good and you don't miss ticks while doing single enchanting. And then finally, manually plank making. And here's a table of all of the late game fast methods that are available. So you can go ahead and look at this table and choose which method that is best for you if you don't want to specifically follow what I recommended. Next up, we have level 1 to 99 magic profit. For the early game methods that are available, you have quests, you have combat spells, enchanting jewelry, teletabs, magic training arena, enchanting jewelry, and telegrabbing wines. Here are the specifics for each method for their level range. You have the approximate amount that you're going to need to do, the XP per hour, the GP per XP, and about how long it will take, along with the total profit that you can expect to make in that level range. The early levels are Wind Strike and Water Strike, which you obviously don't make money from, but there really isn't any option available at that level where you can actually profit. So that's pretty much the only level range where you're not going to be making money. You can do quests, which are essentially free, so that way you're not losing money at the very least, but quests can take longer than if you were to just go and do some Wind Strikes and Water Strikes. So that is why I went with Wind Strike and Water Strike for the very first levels. The mid-game methods are also included with the early methods here because there just isn't that many. So I combined the early and the mid-game methods together here. Here are just the early game methods as far as this table. There are quite a few things on the early game and mid-game table, so I couldn't include them both together here. But as far as types or categories of things to do, there is very little. So that is why on the previous thing I combined them together, but here on the table they're actually going to be separate. So this is the early game stuff, and you can go ahead and look at this table and choose to do something other than what I recommended if there's something that works better for you. And here is the mid-game table. So once again, if there's anything on this table that seems like it would be a better thing for you to do than what is recommended, you can go ahead and do that. Then for the late game methods where you profit, you still have teletabs, you have the new addition of tan leather and recharge dragonstone inventory, you have humidify, superglass make, and spin flax. Here are the specifics for the late game profits method route that I laid out. Now the last two options, tan leather and recharge dragonstone, those both require the Fremenic hard diary. So that is a pretty steep requirement, but this is late game and they are the best options if you are looking for profit. Both of them are very fast XP. Tan leather is 160k an hour and recharge dragonstone is 260k XP per hour. So they're very good for that. And then you can also make quite a bit of money, especially from recharged dragonstone. Depending on the prices, you can actually make over 2 mil an hour sometimes, depending on the prices. So I would highly recommend to get the Fremenic diary done and use those methods for your late game magic. And here is a table of all of the late game methods that you could use for profit. So if you don't have the hard Fremenic diary or you want to do some other method, here's a table with all of the methods, and you can go ahead and pick the one that best suits your needs. And I just wanted to mention some of these things on the table say they're negative, but that's just because of weird price fluctuations because they're very rarely traded items. So normally you should be able to make profit on every single thing on this table. It was just a weird price that it was at when I took this screenshot. But it should be known, since they are rarely traded, if you make a bunch of some of these tabs, it may take a long time to sell if you want to profit on them. So just keep that in mind if you choose to do lunar teletabs. Next up, we have level 1 to 99 magic efficiently. So magic is a 0 time skill. That means that if you're training efficiently, you can get from level 1 to 99 without spending any time specifically dedicated to training magic. So you can do other skills, and in downtime during other skills where you'd normally be doing nothing, you can actually cast certain spells that will give you magic XP in the middle of doing other tasks, which is why people count magic as 0 time if you're training it efficiently, because you're not actually spending time specifically training it. You are training another skill and just happen to be getting magic XP at the same time. The early game options you have available to you are quests, because if you're playing efficiently overall, you're going to want to do those quests eventually anyway. So you might as well do those quests and then just get the magic XP while you're in early level, where it will boost you up a lot. You also have enchanting bolts while doing other activities, and low alch while doing other activities. Here are the specifics for getting those level ranges with the method that I recommend. The reason why I choose low alch over enchanting bolts is because low alch is much easier to do while doing other tasks. Enchanting bolts you really can only do while running, so if you're doing some quests or something where you run a lot, then you can enchant bolts, but low alch you can actually mix in with a lot more activities. The mid-game efficient magic options you have are high alch, you can still low alch, and you can also enchant bolts while doing other activities. So here is the specifics for level 55 to 82 using high alch, which is the method that I recommend out of those. You can high alch while running around during quests, during farming runs. You can high alch while doing agility. You can high alch while doing woodcutting, fishing. There's a lot of stuff that you can high alch in the middle of. Then the late game options are essentially the same thing, except with the addition of Magic Imbue. And here is the specifics for level 82 to 99 using Magic Imbue, which is what I recommend for the late game, is you use Magic Imbue. The reason why I recommend Magic Imbue over high alch is because it only requires 1 click, whereas high alch requires 2 clicks. So it's much easier to cast Magic Imbue in the middle of like fishing actions. If you're a 3-tick fishing, it's a lot easier to cast Magic Imbue rather than trying to cast high alch where you have 2 clicks and you have to wait for it to swap your inventories. Another thing you can do, which has been on the screen but I haven't really talked about yet, is bursting and barraging while doing Slayer to get your magic up. This again is still considered 0 time because you're training Slayer through the most efficient Slayer method, and you just happen to be getting magic XP at the same time. So the magic is considered 0 time. Level 62, you can cast Smoke Burst, and you can start there and work your way up to Ice Burst, Smoke Barrage, Ice Barrage, and so on. Getting to level 99 magic this way will take around 250 hours or so. You will be around 95 to 99 Slayer by the time you hit 99 magic, so it is quite a long roundabout way to get to 99 magic, but you are accomplishing 99 Slayer in the process. So really, anyone that plans to get high level Slayer, this is really the method you want to go with. You really don't have to do Magic Imbue and high alch and stuff if you plan on getting 99 Slayer eventually. And just to be clear, you do not barrage and burst every single task. There are a few key tasks that you burst and barrage, such as Dust Devils in the Catacombs, nechryael in the Catacombs, Abyssal Demons in the Catacombs, and it is possible to also burst bloodvelds in the Catacombs, and then Smoke Devils. And here's a small table of the efficient stuff other than the bursting and barraging. Really, there isn't too many options when it comes to efficient magic. Basically, just these few things on the table where really there's really one option at certain level ranges, so low alch, high alch, Magic Imbue, and then also if you're training Slayer to burst and barrage your tasks. So there really isn't too much to the table here. As far as the GP per XP for Slayer when you're bursting and barraging, from pretty much every task other than bloodvelds, you will actually be profiting. So you'll actually make a bit of money while bursting and barraging Slayer. And then just quickly to go over some interesting magic mechanics. So magic spells have a base max hit that isn't affected by your magic level. The only exception to this is Magic Dart and special staves that have their own spells, such as the Trident or the Sanguinesti staff. Magic will always splash with negative 64 magic bonus or lower. Magic accuracy formula is, you guys can read that there. And magic defense formula is there. The magic prayers, such as augury and all the other ones, affect your magic defense, not just attack. There are 4 spellbooks: Standard, Ancient, Lunar, and Arceus. And as I said before, each magic spell has its base damage that doesn't go up with your magic level, but there is equipment that will raise your max hit, although this equipment is pretty rare. So here is a table of all of the equipment that has a potential to raise your magic max hit.